I went in August of 1942. Drafted, and there's a little story that goes with that drafting, because I had told myself that there was 3 things that I was not going to do in the near future. One of them was that I would not sit around and be drafted into the Army, that I would choose where I wanted to be. And the other one was that I would not marry while I was in the service. And the third thing was that I would not raise a child by itself. And it so happened that I managed to do every one of them. I did all 3 of them. I surely did.
I went out to East Texas State for a while, for a year in the summer, and they drafted me out of the Army, into the Army. At 18 years and 3 months, I was in the Army, and 18 years and 7 months, I was overseas.
I stayed 3 years in the military, and first I went to Germany. I was only 17 years old, and they had the Berlin crisis while I was there. I was 18 during that, and scared to death. I mean, they woke us up and said alert, and we ended up on the 5K zone, and John F. Kennedy said that convoy is going to move into East Germany, and it did at 0700 hours the next morning. And I was thinking that whole time, if a vehicle backfires, it's going to be like to shot her around the world, because Russia was on the other side.
Went in the military August the 17th, 1951. Well, I knew for about a year before, because I felt like I was going to get drafted. I got drafted in the Marine Corps, and that's one of the first times they started drafting Marines and all. I mean, drafting in the Marine Corps. We pretty well thought that we were, getting ready to go there. I mean, we got through boot camp, come home on a 4, 5, 6 day leave, and then went to Camp Pendleton for combat training, and also Sierra Mountains up there to be cold weather training.
Went in with the 2 more boys from here. We went in at the same time and enlisted. I was in the Air Force in ground personnel in the 47 Fighter Squadron.
February 44 is when we went overseas on a British banana boat. They had us way overloaded. Went to Belfast, Ireland first, and then went over to England. We landed up there in Scotland and went off down through there and to a place called Nottingham. I thought that was a fictitious place, but it wasn't. Nottingham, where old Robin Hood and all.
Out of high school in the year January the 4th, 1940. I finished high school in 39, and I joined the Marines up in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I was just, about a high school, but there's no work around those towns where I was. And so I decided that's why I needed to be in the service.
We originally went to Southampton, England, and we were there about a month, and then the Battle of the Bulge began, the 23rd, and then the next day was Christmas Eve, and we were sailing across the channel to France, and we were torpedoed. And we lost equipment and some 750 men. So we didn't go to the Bulge. We didn't have anything to go with. So we replaced a company that was in that area, and they went. When we were torpedoed, I was taking my eating utensils back to the galley, which we had to go up and out. And as I stepped out on the deck, the ship just shuddered kindly and trembled, and we heard the noise. Well, we didn't know. We didn't know it was sinking. We knew it had been hit because it came to a stop and all that. it seemed to me that when I got ready to jump, that somebody down below would jump before I did. So I said, well, the next time she comes up here, I'm jumping regardless. And I did. And one of the sailors caught me by the arm. Didn't even skin my knee.
We landed at Lingayen Gulf up there in the northern port. And MacArthur thought we'd come back into Bataan or Manila. See, that's where we went out. The Japanese had all their big guns placed toward Manila and Bataan, and they couldn't traverse but 180 degrees. So we landed behind the big guns. They had some little 75 millimeter cannons that give us a hard time. We took care of ammunition to the front, and also we brought the dead and wounded back out. But we asked for volunteers from the line companies to come. Of course, we had lost a lot of men. The 6th Army was supposed to be up here, up there where we were, and they got shot up real bad.
We flew into Tan Son Nhut, which is they finally quit using that airstrip because they would shoot at it, at the planes when they're coming in and shoot at the planes when they're coming out. And I went to Vinh Long, down about as far south in the Delta as you could go. One day, the Charger Quarters, CQ, come running in and said, Don, get a truck and go downtown to the Lei Wah. And I got a 2.5-ton truck, and I went downtown, and there was 3 of our mechanics in there in a bar. And some Viet Cong or sympathizer or someone went in and placed a satchel on the floor under a table. And then they gave a little boy a pocket comb, a wristwatch, and a few piastres to throw a grenade in there and set it off. And one of the boys was a good friend of mine. His name was Spearman, and it blew his leg almost off. And one of them, it killed instantly. And the other one didn't have a scratch on him, but he said it blew him away from the table, and his head hit the ceiling, and his back hit the wall at the same time. It blew him it was that strong of a charge. But he wasn't hurt. So we got Spearman in the truck, and he's hollering, my leg is blown off, isn't it? And I kept saying, no, you go to Bangkok and they'll fix that leg and you'll be back here in a month. But I knew better. It was gone.
You were scared. I mean, I was scared, and everybody else was, I guess. But then you kind of got used to it. And then I remember one of my buddies, we had an instance of some incoming fire, and it hit pretty close to where we were. And after it was all over, he jumped up and said, you didn't get me this time. You know, that kind of thing. But also, you saw some of your buddies get killed that you just couldn't hardly stand. And I remember there was one little young Marine, smaller than I was, because I didn't weigh but about 145 pounds then. And he was from Chicago, and he had his head sticking out the door, and it had a direct hit on the bunker and killed him. When I first got over there, it was some incoming fire. And after it was over with, we got out to look where the shells had exploded, and there was this little piece of metal about this big. Guess what it had on it? Made in the USA. See, they could capture our ammunition and use it against us because their weapons would take ours. Ours would not take theirs.
We were flying missions. Of course, we kept the planes in there. Very active. It wasn't no fun, just put it to you that way. Well, I got hung going off the plane on the invasion of Iwo. I got hung up in the ropes coming down, and it wasn't a pleasant place to be. But we were told if you don't want to get killed, crawl on your belly and in the slit trenches. We didn't have a tube. I just saw the ground, and I crawled on my belly. And everybody else did. It wasn't funny. We always landed. We were very fortunate in that we could land those. Had P-51s, if you're familiar with the planes, P-51s, and when we hit the beach, it was wonderful. I mean, boy, the beach, we could land that 51 right quick.
They put